A little peasant. Once in a village lived many well-off farmers. There was also one farmer who didn't have much at all. They called him the Little Peasant. He didn't even have a cow or the money to buy one. But he and his wife wished for a cow more than anything. One day, he said to his wife, "Listen, I have a clever idea. Our friend the carpenter can help us. He can make us a little calf out of wood and paint it brown, just like a real one. Maybe it will bring us good luck." His wife liked the idea too. So their friend the carpenter carefully carved and painted a wooden calf. He made it look like it was looking down, nibbling grass. The next morning, when the village cows were being led out to the fields, the little peasant called the cowherd over. "Look," he said, "I have a new little calf, but it's still too small to walk far. It needs to be carried." The cowherd said, "All right," and gently picked up the wooden calf. He carried it to the pasture and set it down in the soft grass. The little wooden calf stood there all day, looking like it was eating. The cowherd smiled and said, "It will be running around soon. See how well it eats already." That evening, when it was time to bring the cows home, the cowherd said to the wooden calf, "You stood here eating all day, so you can walk home on your own 4 legs. I'm not carrying you back." But the little peasant waited by his door for his calf. When the cowherd came through the village without it, the farmer asked, "Where is my little calf?" The cowherd answered, "It's still out there eating. It wouldn't stop and come with the herd." The little peasant looked worried. "Oh, but I must have my little calf back." They went back to the meadow together. But someone must have thought the wooden calf was real and taken it. It was gone. The cowherd said it must have wandered off. The peasant felt sad and said, "But it couldn't walk. It was only made of wood." They went to the village leader. The cowherd explained what happened and felt very bad that the little calf was gone while he was watching the cows. Because he felt responsible, the kind cowherd offered the little peasant one of his own older cows that he could spare. Now the little peasant and his wife finally had the cow they had wished for. They were so happy, but soon they realized they didn't have enough food for the cow through the long winter. Sadly, the cow grew old very quickly, and soon it could not stay with them anymore. They missed it very much. The farmer kept its soft hide to remember it by. He decided to sell the hide in town to get money for food. On his way to town, he passed a windmill. Nearby sat a poor raven with a wing that looked hurt. Feeling sorry for it, the farmer gently picked up the raven and wrapped it carefully inside the soft cowhide he was carrying. Just then, the weather turned stormy, with rain and wind. The farmer couldn't go any farther. He went to the mill and asked if he could wait out the storm inside. The miller's wife was home alone. She said, "You can rest here on the straw," and gave him a piece of bread and some cheese. The farmer ate the bread and cheese and lay down on the straw with the cowhide beside him. The raven was quiet inside. The miller's wife thought, "He must be very tired. He's fallen asleep." A little later, the miller's wife decided to have a special snack while her husband was out. "He'll be back soon," she thought. "I'll just have a quick treat." The farmer, who wasn't really asleep, heard her getting out some tasty food. He felt a bit hungry, thinking about his simple bread and cheese. The woman brought out 4 different yummy things: roast chicken, salad, tasty cakes, and fruit juice. Just as she was about to eat, her husband knocked loudly at the door. "Oh dear," whispered the woman, "he's back already." Quickly, she hid the roast chicken in the big tile stove, the juice under a pillow, the salad on the bed, and the cakes under the bed. Then she opened the door for her husband, the miller. "Thank goodness you're back," she said. "Such a storm! It feels like the world is shaking outside." The miller saw the farmer resting on the straw. "Who is this?" he asked. "Oh," said his wife, "the poor fellow came in asking for shelter from the storm. I gave him some bread and cheese and told him he could rest here." The miller said, "That's fine with me, but please hurry and get me something to eat." "I only have bread and cheese," the woman said. "That's all right," the miller replied. "Bread and cheese will be fine for me." He looked at the farmer. "Come, friend, have some more bread and cheese with me." The farmer didn't need to be asked twice. He got up and ate with the miller. After a moment, the miller noticed the cowhide lying on the floor near the farmer. "What do you have there?" he asked. The farmer answered, "Oh, inside this hide, I have a very special bird, a fortune teller." "A fortune teller?" said the miller, curious. "Can it tell me anything?" "Why, yes," said the farmer. "It knows many secrets." The miller was very interested. "Let it tell one thing right now." The farmer gently patted the hide where the raven was resting. The raven made a soft, muffled sound. "Krr, krr." "What did it say?" asked the miller eagerly. The farmer leaned close, as if listening. "First, it says there is some delicious juice hidden under a pillow nearby." "Goodness me!" cried the miller. He went to the pillow and found the juice. "Go on, ask another." The farmer patted the hide again, and the raven made another soft krr krr. "Now," said the farmer, "it says there is some tasty roast chicken warming in the tile stove." "Amazing!" shouted the miller. He rushed to the stove and found the chicken. The farmer patted the hide again. "Third," he announced, "it says there is a fresh salad resting on the bed." "Well, I never!" cried the miller, finding the salad right where the farmer said. Finally, the farmer patted the hide one last time. "Krr, krr." He said, "Fourth, it says there are yummy cakes hidden under the bed." "This is wonderful," the miller cheered, and looked under the bed to find the cakes. Now, the miller and the farmer sat down at the table together to enjoy the feast. The miller's wife looked very worried and quietly went off to bed. The miller was so pleased with the shared meal and the farmer's cleverness. "You have brightened up this stormy evening," he said. "Thank you for sharing your bird's secrets." He gave the farmer a warm place to sleep and a small coin for his journey. The farmer smiled, accepted the coin gratefully, and left the mill early the next morning, just as the sun was rising. Back home, the little peasant used the coin wisely to buy some seeds. He worked hard in his small garden, and soon his house looked a little nicer. The other farmers in the village noticed. "Look," they said, "the little peasant seems to be doing better. He must have done well selling that hide in town." They started to imagine he had become quite rich. Soon, the little peasant was asked to come see the village leader. The leader asked him how he was improving his home. The farmer replied vaguely, "I sold my old cow's hide in town and had a bit of good fortune on my journey." When the other farmers heard this, they thought selling hides was the way to get rich too. They gathered up any old animal hides they had put away and rushed to town, hoping to sell them for lots of money. The village leader said, "My helper should go first." When the helper got to the merchant in town, the merchant only offered 2 small coins for the hide. When the other farmers arrived with their ordinary hides, the merchant offered even less. "What am I going to do with all these plain hides?" he asked. The farmers were angry. They felt the little peasant had somehow misled them. They complained about him to the village leader. The leader and the farmers decided the little peasant was too tricky and caused confusion. They agreed he should leave the village and find his fortune elsewhere. As the farmer was sadly preparing to leave the village with his few belongings, a shepherd came by with his flock of sheep. The farmer knew this shepherd had always wished he could be the village leader someday. So the farmer sighed dramatically and said, "Well, they're making me leave. They say I'm too clever for this quiet village and should seek adventure elsewhere. But oh, the thought of leaving my home." The shepherd listened. "Leaving? Seeking adventure?" The farmer continued, "Yes, but I suppose someone needs to stay and look after things here. Perhaps someone who dreams of being important in the village?" He looked towards the shepherd's flock. "I wish I had something useful, like those sheep, for my journey." The shepherd's eyes lit up. He thought, "If this clever fellow is leaving, maybe I can become more important here. Trading my sheep for his place in the village seems like a good start." "Tell you what," said the shepherd eagerly, "you can take my sheep for your journey, and I will stay here. I will take your small house and garden. This way, I can be ready when the village needs a new leader." "All right," said the farmer, trying not to look too pleased. "If you're sure, it's a deal." The shepherd happily gave the farmer his flock. The farmer quickly gathered the sheep and led them away down the road, leaving the village behind. The other farmers saw the peasant walking away, but this time he was leading a large flock of fluffy sheep. He looked quite content. The farmers were amazed. "Peasant," they cried out, running after him, "where did you get those sheep? We thought you were leaving with nothing." "I was leaving," replied the farmer with a twinkle in his eye. "But just down the riverbank, I found the most beautiful green meadows, filled with the softest, fluffiest sheep you ever saw. They were just wandering there, so I gathered this flock." "Are there more sheep down there?" asked the farmers excitedly. "Oh yes," said the farmer, "more than anyone could count." The farmers immediately decided they wanted to get flocks of sheep too. The village leader said, "I should go first to check." They all rushed back to the riverbank together. Just then, some small, fluffy white clouds drifted across the blue sky. Their reflections shimmered in the water below. "Look!" cried the farmers, pointing at the reflections. "We can see the sheep down there already. They look so white and fluffy." The village leader pushed forward. "I'll jump in first," he said, "and see if it's a good place. Then I'll call you." And he jumped into the river with a big splash. The splash echoed across the water. To the excited farmers waiting on the bank, it sounded just like the leader calling them to follow. Without a second thought, they all jumped into the river after him. Splash, splash, splash! Everyone got soaking wet and covered in mud. They looked around, sputtering and shivering. There were no green meadows and no fluffy sheep, only cold river water and slippery mud. They felt very, very silly. The little peasant watched them from a safe distance, shaking his head but smiling a little. He was happy with his new flock of sheep and ready for a new start. He had learned that being resourceful could help overcome difficulties. And perhaps, just perhaps, the other farmers learned a lesson that day about being too greedy and blindly following others instead of thinking for themselves.